Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Pirate Valley. Today, well, if you guys have been enjoying my generous placement of rocks, then you are gonna love today's episode, let me just say that. To kick things off though, we are working on a pathway down from the top end of the park, down through the big sort of port wall thing, and I decided to put a Hat's Fantastic there in the port wall as well, as you can see. That's the first step in getting people from the top section of the park to the other. And today's episode is focused pretty much entirely on that and making it look good. So we bring people down through all of this structure, and I am actually really pleased with how that ends up turning out. I think the work that I do and all that, it just works, you know? There's a lot of empty space here that wasn't getting used, and fortunately, now it is, and we will now see people walking about on that lower section of wall there. So I bring the path out of that structure, bring it across here a little bit, and this is where the rocks start to come out to play, because I do a lot with rocks and the sort of fake water style that we've been using here and there with the blue roof pieces. Except today I also use some walls, because today, as you can see in the thumbnail, I decided that I was going to build a waterfall. And this is something that took up a large chunk of a Twitch stream. And it wasn't really planned. I just looked at it and went, it's kind of weird that there's this body of water up here. I mean, the waterfall doesn't make sense. The waterfall's not coming from a river, it's coming from a lake, which I very much accept is really unrealistic. But if you've seen some of my Cities Skylines Let's builds, you'll know that I frequently play with the idea of an infinite water supply. I've done it in Minecraft, I've done it in Cities Skylines, and I'm now doing it in Planet Coaster, because it actually looks really cool. We end up with the roller coaster going through a massive mountain, and we also end up with the second section of the path that brings you down into this lower section of the park also going through that same massive cliff. And there was something Twitch chat was very adamant on, which was that there is the Disney-style rock at the top of both waterfalls, which you can cling to should you be, like, flying down through the rapids and all that stuff. So that's a thing that you will see here as well. But this whole thing, like this entire episode, is just working on fake mountains, and I've actually sped up the footage a little bit faster than I usually would. Usually I do about 900%. This time it's 1200%, because 900 was in no way fast enough, because this episode would have been 20 minutes long. It's now like 14. That's still not necessarily fast enough, but I don't think I can sustain a 20-minute commentary just talking about rocks and waterfalls. Because let's be honest, there's not really much to talk about in that regard. That said, we do end up playing with the cannons again. As you can see there, we were toying with them for basically the foam and spray that would come off of the bottom of a waterfall. And I took them out for a while because I didn't think they worked, and later on you'll see me placing some white statues in there to try and make the foam and spray work. And again, that didn't really work, because we can sort of get away with the ponds, like the big lakes and all that stuff, being very still. You can just imagine that those are still bodies of water. When it comes to a waterfall, you kind of need to have it actually in motion, which we can't do, or you need to fake it. And you can't really fake motion if everything's completely still. You can if you draw it, if it's supposed to be a still image, but considering everything else around this is going to be moving, that doesn't really work. So we do eventually come back to those cannons. That's the point of my rambling. And we do eventually make it work. But as you can see at the moment, just going ahead and chucking in some rocks underneath and around the coaster track there. And then we're going to get on with actually building up the mountain, which took a really, really long time. It seriously did. This took, I think this is the most time I've spent on an episode of Let's Build Pirate Valley in quite a while. The first few episodes were like 3+ hours. This one was like 3. The other ones usually take about 2. The thing is, they take about 2.5 to 3 hours per episode, because I know that when I speed it up to like 900%, which is my usual time, that's gonna give me like 15 to 20 minutes. If I can get between like 2.5 hours to about 3 hours and like 15 minutes, I can get about, you know, a 15 to 20 minute episode. And that's kind of where I like to stick things. In this particular case, I sped it up more to make it quicker because, again, rocks. Just rocks, rocks, and rocks. And my God, there are so many of them. The object count on this map must now be ridiculous. I've placed hundreds, easily hundreds and hundreds of these rocks. In this build alone, there's easily hundreds of them. It's weird, man. It really is. Like, again, I keep rambling on about, oh, May 24th, the terrain editing's coming out. I actually asked on stream, does anyone know if water is coming in that update? And apparently it isn't. So this is technically, currently, the best way I can think of to make a waterfall. And you might have, oh, there's me actually adding in the white statues to attempt spray. You might have noticed that the upper section of the waterfall, the upper curve, is a different set of the roof pieces. That was because originally I wasn't going to clone a bunch of the curved wall pieces the way I did in the second curved section of Waterfall, so that's what's going on there. But there you go, you can see that the spray is actually working. I add a bit of foliage here and there, and then I actually add in some more cannons horizontally to give the subtle effect that there is some spray sort of coming off of the waterfall as well as it coming, you know, up from where the water is impacting. And here and there you can sort of see the fiery explosion of the cannons, but generally speaking, I think it works. And honestly, I wasn't convinced while I was streaming this. I wasn't convinced at all that this was going to work. I really, really wasn't. I was scared that I was going to spend a long time working on this and then end up looking at it and going, yeah, that's not very good. But honestly, this is now my favorite feature in Pirate Valley. For a long time, it was that, up until this point, it was the big fort wall thing. It is easily this waterfall now. It really is. Anyway, what we're watching at the moment, this after that transition there, is stuff that I built after the stream. This was all built the next day, and this is now filling in a bunch of space to make a big lake here at the base of the port wall. And I put some rocks in the middle of it. I put all the rocks around it, of course. And as I mentioned, it's completely unrealistic because this is technically a lake. There wouldn't really be a port wall there. But we can imagine that while in some places I've gone for realism with this park, in others I'm going for a much more theme park style thing. So let's just imagine that somewhere down in the lower section of the park, there is this ridiculously gigantic pump system that pumps water back up into this space here to go back down the waterfall. That's the way we'll say it works, realistically speaking. When it comes to unrealistically speaking, I just really like playing with the idea of infinite water because I don't see the... I like building for realism, but at the I just dropped something. I like building for realism, but at the same time, if you go too heavily on like realism, you're gonna get to a point where you're really limiting yourself. And a game like this is a playground. It's a sandbox. It's not a sandbox in the traditional sense of gaming, but it's a playground. It's a sandbox. It's one of those Lego tables that like you might have had as a kid. It was like a table with like a Lego top on it, and you could just build whatever you wanted on it, and it didn't matter if your car had 5 wheels, it didn't matter if your bus had like no windows and square wheels. You were building it and that was your space to do your thing, and you didn't care about it being realistic. Unless you were me, and then you would try and have everything actually look like a kind of cool city, because I was a nerd. Still am, funnily enough. But yeah, I play with realism. I throw realism in one place and then throw it out the window in another. It's how I play games in general, you know? If I'm doing an RP thing, it's like, oh, we'll do some serious RP and then have some stupid RP. I've been on some D&D sessions on Mathin's streams, and one moment I'm taking it seriously, the next moment I'm trying to figure out how can I make this character Christopher Walken. So yeah, it's knowing when and where to apply realism and where your efforts are best spent, because I could have spent a long time trying to, you know, make it look like this water went the whole way through the park, put a bunch more waterfalls in, and have it look like the water is sourced up in a mountain coming from a cave or something. So maybe the mountain goes further, there's a river behind it or something. I could have done that, but one, I probably would have wasted a lot of time because it wouldn't have looked very good. And two, who the hell cares, honestly? I think this looks cool. The point of this entire series, the point of whenever I build anything in a video game is, does it look cool? Because if it does, that's all I need it to do. It doesn't need to look realistic unless it's something like Cities where I'll maybe go for a bit more realism. But yeah, if I can make something look cool over realistic and I can get away with it the way I can in a game like this, I'm totally gonna. Anyway, I've been rambling just a little bit, as I tend to do in these videos. I don't know why anyone's shocked at that. But what we're doing at the moment, as you can see, I built the path that comes down through the mountain there, or is going to be going down through the mountain, and now we're just building the rocks up around it. The walls that I've put around there, those are basically guidelines. They're not strict guides. It's basically Pirates of the Caribbean. They're more guidelines than actual rules. So that's what those are. They're there to guide the rocks and kind of give me an idea of the space I'm working in. A lot of the walls get deleted here and there. Some of them get swapped out for shorter sections of walls. And, you know, generally it just works. I take some out, put some in, put some rocks here and there. And we now have a way for people. You will see it. It gets completed in the video. Duh. But you'll see that people now have a way to get down into this lower section of the park, which is honestly has been something I've not wanted to deal with for a while because I had no idea. I really had no idea how I was going to do it, because every time I looked at it, it was like, oh, it'll not be that hard. Then you look at it, it's like, oh, I've got 2 massive cliffs to try and work around here. We have the first one, which is where the port is, and then this second one where the waterfall now is. And honestly, I can just be glad that I felt a little bit inspired both times with the port wall turned out to be a really good idea and something that's actually useful to hide the path. And then this waterfall, which was just random. I was just building the lake. That was originally just going to be a lake at the bottom of the port wall. But then it turned out, I just looked at it and went, hey, it's by the cliff. There's water down there. Could I maybe do a waterfall? And I decided to go, yeah, I probably could. I could probably do a waterfall there and make it look kinda decent. So, in the end, that's what I did, and I'm honestly beyond pleased with how this whole thing turned out. Hopefully you are too. I do really hope people like the way the waterfall turned out. It's not something I've seen anyone really attempt in Planet Coaster yet, so it was fun trying to work it out. I feel like I probably wouldn't have done it the way I did if I'd watched someone else do it first. That's generally just the way I am, though. I watch someone build something first, and then my way of building it's going to be a little bit different because I can base it on what they've done. They've already worked out problems and all that stuff. I had to do problem solving, just absolutely everything, and I think that helped me when it came to actually making it look the way it did. So, yeah, problem solving. Never thought I would say that problem solving would help me out, but apparently it did. So, there you go, ladies and gents. That is pretty much going to be it. A bunch more rocks to go. There's going to be a couple of cinematic shots, probably just 2 or 3, because, well, for one, I haven't recorded them yet, and for 2, it's a waterfall that doesn't really move, so, yeah. That is going to be it for today. So if you have any ideas for Pirate Valley, do feel free to leave them in the comments below. I stream this quite regularly to Twitch. Keep an eye out for the Live Now videos. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. This has been Planet Coaster and Let's Build Pirate Valley, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!